Hi everyone, welcome to Scottish Summit. And I believe you are enjoying the event so far and you have already learned so much during this event. And I hope in this session also you will learn something new. Before we start, let's thank our sponsor for this event, Script Runner, DQ Global, Proximo 3, Red Spire, Agilicis, and Hitachi Solutions. So thank you all for making this wonderful event possible. Little bit about myself. So I am Deepak Shrivastava. I'm a senior manager at EY. I am also Microsoft MVP. If you like to follow me after this session, this is my Twitter handle, Deepak_S22. So yeah, feel free to connect with me. And I also have a YouTube channel where I'm continuously uploading new content every week. So if you like to check this out, you can access my YouTube via this link. And if you like to access my website for the similar content, you can also access deepakshrivastava.com. Today's session is all about Microsoft Teams and Power Platform. So I'm going to show you how you can use Power Platform capabilities inside the Microsoft Teams without really writing any code. So before we deep dive into integration part of it, let's take a recap of what is Microsoft Teams. So as we know, Microsoft Teams is a hub for teamwork in M365, and it is extensively used by various enterprises already. So what Microsoft Teams allow us, it allows us to chat, calls, meet with our colleagues, and just not chatting and calling, it is a very rich collaboration tool where we can collaborate with our colleagues in the real time while sharing, calling them, video calling. And this is a real time work culture. And during this whole COVID era, the teams were very, very helpful. It also integrates with various other Microsoft 365 apps. For an example, SharePoint, Excel, Outlook, OneNote, OneDrive, and most of them. So you can easily connect them with Microsoft Teams just by a few clicks. It is very easy to customize and extend. So you can extend the functionality what Microsoft Teams currently have very easily by low-code, no-code approach. That's what we're going to learn today. And also you can use the custom development to extend the functionalities. It also follows the enterprise-grade security and compliance. So when you are using Microsoft Teams, you don't need to worry about any security and compliance. The next is Power Platform. So as we know, Power Platform is a low-code platform provided by Microsoft that connect with M365, Dynamics 365, Azure, and any other standalone application. This platform is allowing citizen developer to quickly build apps, automations, chatbot, reporting in no time. The Power Platform has 4 key pillars: Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agent. Power BI is an analytics service or the pillar that allow you to analyze your data in a graphical way. So it allows you to create rich dashboard reporting based on the underlying data that you have. Power Apps is an application development, so that allow you to interact with your data by an app. So you can easily create an app that can connect to your data and allowing your end user to create, update, delete, or work on the data. Power Automate is an automation pillar. So it allows you to automate any manual process that is either taking too much time or very complex to perform. And then we have the last pillar, that is a Power Virtual Agent. This is a chatbot, and this allows citizen developers to quickly build a very rich and interactive chatbot that they can deploy for their end customers. Now, all of these pillars is enabled by Microsoft Dataverse. So Microsoft Dataverse is enabling all of these different features and functionality that we are getting under Power Platform. We also get multiple data connectors, and these data connectors are used to connect to different systems and applications. With all of this, there's one more area that's coming with the Power Platform, that is AI Builder. So this is an artificial intelligence capabilities of Power Platform, and it is a subset of Azure AI service. So with this AI Builder, you can quickly build AI-enabled applications in no time. For an example, receipt scanning or form processing. This will help you to build quick app without even having any experience of AI, because these are the pre-built model that you can use in your app. So all of these features and functionality that comes with Power Platform is very powerful, right? Now the question is, yes, the Power Platform is giving us a lot of really nice features. Teams also giving enterprise-grade collaborations and the functionality. Now, how we can combine these two together? And the answer is Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. So recently, Microsoft has announced Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. What is Microsoft Dataverse for Teams provide? It is a subset of that bigger Microsoft Dataverse that we just saw in the previous slide, that is enabling this entire Power Platform. So now you are getting almost similar capabilities that enabling the entire Power Platform inside the Teams, which you can use day to day. It has all the basic functionality. It has all the rich data type that you can create in the Dataverse. You can similarly create into the Dataverse for Teams. It also provides relational data model. So now you can create relational data table and use those data table in your app or in your Power BI or even in virtual agent. The biggest benefit that you can take from this, it does not require you to license any further. Yes, so if you have an M365 license, you can use the Dataverse for Teams today. You don't need to purchase any new licenses. You don't need to purchase any new services. So that this is included in your existing license. So what it is supporting right now, you can have up to 1 million records or 2 GB storage capacity. So what that means, when you are creating an app, the Teams is going to create a database for you. That is Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. So for each team, you can create one backend database. The storage capacity of that database is going to be 2 GB max. You can have up to 500 teams. Those are enabled with the Dataverse for Teams. So in overall, you can have 1 terabyte of data storage free available for you for your entire Teams environment. You can always upgrade your environment to the full Dataverse capability. So that options is available for you. All of this functionality is generally available. Now there's one more feature. So not only you are getting the rich capabilities of the data model, it also enables one more key aspect of it. If your enterprise or you using Azure API management, and if you have published maybe some really nice useful API there, what you can do now, you can export those API as a custom connector for this Dataverse for Teams environment. But that's not the point. The point is those exported custom connectors are going to be exported as a standard connector. So now you can get all those useful features provided by those different API. Those are published to the Azure APIM in your Dataverse for Teams environment as a standard connector. So you're not paying any premium license fees for that. And you can use those standard connector in your Power Apps or in your Power Automate. So all of this sounds very interesting, and I'm going to walk you through each and every aspect of it during this demo. So in my demo section, I'm going to provide 4 demos here. The first one, we will create a sample table and an app in the Dataverse for Teams. In the second demo, I will show you how I use all of this functionality and created a receipt scanning app. In the third demo, I will walk you through how you can quickly publish an API to the APIM and export that API as a custom connector for the Dataverse for Teams. And the last demo, we will use that in our flow. So if you're ready, then let me jump onto the Teams environment. So I am connecting to my teams.microsoft.com. So this is my Teams environment. Now, if you are doing this first time, you may not see this Power Apps here. So for that, what you need to do, click on these three dots here, search for Power App, and now you can see the Power App here. You can also see Power BI, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Agent. So, and select the Power App. And as soon as you do that, the Teams will have the entire Power App experience inside the Teams. So we're going to start creating an app. So I'm going to click on Create an App, select the Teams for which we are creating the app, click on Create. Now again, if you are doing this first time, it may take a couple of minutes to set up the environment. Give a name, and I will click Save. And once it's saved, you can see the entire app is already created. Now, to make this app functional, what we need to connect this to a data. So as you can see on the left hand side, you can now see an option called Create New Table. And this is where you create the dev tables and the data for Microsoft Dataverse for Teams. So what you need to do, first thing, you need to provide the name of your table. So I'm going to give the name Demo App 1 Table and click Create. And as soon as you click on Create, the Microsoft Teams will take you to the table creation experience. So now as you can see here, this is my table name. Now what I can do here, I can add different columns that I need for this table. By default, it comes with one column called name. You can also rename it. For this demo purpose, what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on this plus icon here and create a second column. Okay. And from the drop down, you can see you can create these different type of columns. You can create a text column, email, URL, phone, auto number, date, choices, right? And I'm going to click create. Then I'm going to create another column that is for, let's say, a session. So I'm building this app where I can add my request for a particular session that I wanted to attend in a given event, right? And this session is, let's make this a choice column. And my first choice will be, let's say, Power Apps. And you can keep adding these choices: Power Automate, Power BI, Power Virtual Agent, right? Then I will add one more column, and this is the type date. So once you create the table, let's add some data here. And once you do that, you click close. And now once you do that, you will see your data table available here, and it is also connected. So this is how easy it is. So we created an app, we created a data table, and now if I preview this app, it is a fully functional app. I can add more information. So let's say add one more record here. As you can see here, this is fully functional app. Now, once we have our app ready, let's publish this app to a particular team. And to do that, it's very straightforward. You see here the option called Publish to Team. Click on that. Click Next. Then you need to select a channel tab where you want this app to be added. Save and close. And that's it. Now, if I go back to my Teams, I can see my demo app 1 is already published and ready to go. And it is fully functional inside my team. I can add more record, as you can see here, right? Now let's go back to the Power App and see what happened behind the scene. Okay, so I am in my studio again. If you click on the build, what this is going to show you is going to show you all the teams that you have on the left hand side, and in the central you will see all these different app tables or flow that you have created. And if you click on the see all, this will take you to the page where you can see all these different apps that has been created under this Teams environment. On the left hand side under the table, you can see all those different tables has been created. So you can see here, this is our table, demo app 1 table. Now from here, if you go to the table, you can see all these different columns for this table that we have created. The next is the relationship. So if we have created the relational table, then this will show that relationship. And then we have views. So what you can do now, you can create a view. So generally what we used to do in our Power App, we used to create filter query and doing some sort of logic to filter the record. But what you can do with Dataverse for Teams, you can create a custom view in which you can actually create a filter. So now you can create a filtered view with your data that you can directly use in your Teams. Then the one more option on the table now you can see here saying manage permissions. So now what you can do, you can allow access on this data to the different groups. So the member guest, this is the default Teams groups that we get. Whenever we create a team, we get members of the team and the guest of the team. And then you can define what member can do with this app. Maybe they can just create a record and read the record. They may not be able to delete. Or similarly, you can do this with the guest. With the latest update in this team environment, you can also share your app with your colleague, and you can define what they can do with this app. So by default, if you are sharing this app with your colleagues, they can't really have any access. But now you can change that access to maybe provide them read or record access, or maybe they can create the record, but they won't be able to change that record. So all of these features are available now us to use. Okay, so next what we're gonna do, let's create another table and we will call it session. Add another column here, we will call it, so this is the session detail. Again, it's a text column, done, and added the data. So now what I did, I created a table that has name of the session and a little bit of detail about the session, right? And why we are doing it, because I need to show you how the relationship work in the table. So I'll go back to my data app one table and edit the data. Now, if you see here, we have a choice column that I added here. So instead of that, let me add another column here. And then I will give the name session name, and I will say this is relationship, right? And this time what I'm going to do, I'm going to select the type lookup. So what I'm saying that this session name should be lookup from the table that we just created. So let's find that table here, session, and create, right? And now if I close this, let's go back to the app. So we are here in our app that we have built. And now what we're going to do, instead of connecting this to the existing choice session column, we're going to edit this app and connect to our new relational table that we have just created. So if you do that, you can see the name of the column. So select that, click add, and we can remove this one because we don't need. And here you go. So now if I play this app and added this record, now as you can see here, now this information is coming from the other table. So it is still going to work as expected, but now instead of working on the choice column, I have created a relational table. So this is all how easy it is. You can also quickly publish. So you can make sure that it published successfully. And if I go back to my Teams, and if I go to my app, and I should be able to see that updated information here, and as you can see here, right? So now this column information is coming from my relational table. Okay, so this was all about the basic how you can create a simple app. But now let me show you what I have built using this feature and extend this functionality to building a receipt processing app. So for that, let me connect my mobile phone. Okay, so let me present my phone here. So this is my phone screen, as you can see here. And if I go to the app, so this is the app that I created using Dataverse for Team. And what this app is doing, it is allowing me to submit the expense request for my different travel that I do. And as you can see here, it's showing me 2 open requests. If I go to the pending, I can see if there's any pending request, if all or my request has been approved, or all the requests together. On the top, I can see total open dollar amount that I have to get remembers, anything that is pending, anything that is approved. So this app is connected to the Dataverse for Teams environment, and I have a couple of tables that is storing the expense and the expense line items that I'm submitting. And if I drill down to one of the requests, I can see the detail about the expense on the top, and then I can see all those different line items that is related to this request. I can click on any of these, I can change or update the information as needed. So this is fully functional app, right? So now let's go ahead and create a new expense. So I'm going to click on create new, give the period for this request. Okay, the request title, I'm going to say this is for my Scottish Summit. Okay, and then I can select approver and then the cost center. Okay, so I am creating this new request for my expense for the Scottish Summit. Now, if I drill down to the Scottish Summit, now I have two options, and this is something I extra added. So I can create each line item like one by one, so I can submit the request one by one. Or if I have a receipt in which I have multiple line item that I want to submit for reimbursement, what I can do, I can click on the scan receipt and click on the picture. And then what I can do, I can take a picture of the receipt as I'm doing right now. So this is my receipt for the expense that I did. Click on done. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on process receipt. So what I'm doing right now, I'm collecting the information in this receipt, sending it to the Azure API, that is Cognitive Services that I'm using, and asking the API to process the data and send me the response back. So every line item that in this receipt will be coming back from the APIM, and that's where I'm using that standard connector functionality of the Dataverse for Teams. So I have created an API, published it to the APIM that is using Cognitive Services, and exported that API as a custom connector for the Power Apps, and then using that custom connector in this app. And that's what you are seeing right now. So right now the request is going, the APIM is processing the request, sending it to the Cognitive Services. Cognitive Services will send the response back, and as soon as we get the response, you will see all the line item listed here. And as you can see here. So now, as you can see, all those line item that was there in the receipt is listed here. I have also added one more feature here. If you see, the cost is in pound. I have added another feature here, this little icon. So this is a real-time currency conversion API. And for this also, I'm using the Azure APIM, where I have published this currency converter API, exported it, and using as a standard connector in this app. So once I click on that, it's going to real-time convert the pound to the dollar, as you can see here, right? And now I click submit. So what I'm doing right now, I'm creating a line item for this expense for all of these different costs that I have received from this receipt. So if I go back, and as you can see here, my Scottish Summit request is ready. It's for $53. And as you can see here, all the items listed here. And these are all individual items. So I can click on that and change the category if I want. And then I can go here and maybe submit. If I see everything looks good and I submitted it, and this is now pending for review and approval. Fair enough, right? So now let me show you how I'm using those custom connector and how the data looks like when it is stored after I submit the request. So let me go back to my computer screen. Okay, so I'm back to my computer screen, and now let's click on See All. Under Tables, I'm using these two tables for the app: expense line items and expense. And if I go to the expense table, if I click on Added Data, you can see all these different columns. Those were available in the app. So name, approval name, comments, cost center, start date, end date, and other information. And our Scottish Summit expense request also listed here. The other table that we were using in that app was expense line items. So this is the relational table. So we are not storing all the data into one single list. Rather, we are storing the line items into the separate table and the actual expense request into another table. And we are connecting those two tables with the expense ID, and our ID was the Scottish Summit expense. And as you can see here, all that line items that we have scanned from this receipt are already uploaded to this table. Let me go back to the app again. And if I go to the app, and in this app, I will go to the scan receipt screen, because this is the screen where I was calling the cognitive API on this button click. So if I go to this on select event of this button, you can see here, and this is what you do when you use the APIM and custom connector. So this is my custom connector that I was talking earlier that I have exported from the APIM, Cognitive Analyze Preview 1. And this, what this connector is allowing me to do, is allowing me to take the input as in a receipt image, the data of the image, of the receipt image, sending it to the backend, and then it is giving me the response with all the information in that receipt. So if you go to the data tab, and you can see your custom connector listed here. So this is my custom connector, Cognitive Analyze V1 Preview _1. And the important point, this connector doesn't have the diamond or the premium indicator. So this connector is standard connector. Now, how easy you can actually get this connector working from Azure APIM to the Power Platform, let me show you. So to do that, go to the portal.azure.com, and I hope you already have the Azure subscription, because we need that for this to work. Log into Azure, and we also need the APIM management service created. Once you drill down to the APIM, under API, this is where you see all those different APIs available for us to use, right? Any new API can be published to the APIM via either of these options. So you can start with the blank API, or you can start with an open API, WADL or WSDL type API logic app. So if either you or your colleagues are building really nice logic app in Azure, you can publish them as an API into the APIM and export those APIs as a custom connector for Power Platform. App service or function app. So all of these options are available for us to create an API. So I'm going to show you how quickly you can create that currency conversion API in here in the API. So for that, what I'm using this Alpha Vantage API. That API is allow us to do the currency conversion in the real time. And this is, if you look at here, it's a currency exchange rate. And this is the information about the API. And this is how the response looks like. And this is what you need to get the API working in the APIM. So let me go back to the APIM. Okay, so we will start with the blank API. So click on the blank API, the display name. So I'm going to just call it Scottish Summit API sample, right? And then web service URL. So this is the URL of your API, actual API. So I'm going to just copy the URL that I have. So this is the URL for my API. And then you need to provide the API URL suffix. So if you see here, this base URL, whatever you type in here, it will add it to this API. And this is the important part to understand with APIM. So when you are publishing an API to the APIM, you provide the web service URL. This is the actual URL of API. But when you publish, the end user will see this. So end user will never know what was the actual API of your backend system. And this is the good, because then you can secure your API from any unwanted access. Click on create. So what this is going to do is going to create the API here. And as you can see here, saying this is the one that we created. Now, because we are starting from the blank, so it is empty. So what we need to do, we need to add an operation. So what kind of operation you want this API to perform. So click on add operation, and we will see, we will create the get operation, right? And then I'm going to just start with base, because if you look at the API definition, we don't have any specific method, right? This is the API, and that's what we just need to call and providing this query parameter. So if you have any specific method in your API, you can define those method after this one. So for example, let's say if you have get data as a method in your API, you just type in like this, the actual name of the method. In our case, we don't have, so we'll just put this one. The next, we don't have any template parameter, but we do have the query parameter. So let me show you again. So we have these 3 query parameter that we need to define for this API to work, right? So I'm going to quickly add those. So first one is the function, and then you can also provide the sample value. So when someone using it, they don't need to provide anything. They can just use as it is. So my function, and the next one is toCurrency. So this is from what currency we are converting to, string, and I'm going to say USD here. And then the another one is the from currency. And in this one, I'm going to use pound, okay? And then next is the header. So this is the important point. You can define the header here, but sometime when you are working on these external API, the header included, like in this one, the key. You don't want to provide this key or asking this key to everyone who is going to consume this API. So what you can do, you can define this header as a global header. And before we do that, let me save this. So if you look at this structure here, this is your API and all the operations for this API listed here. Then you have the front end. This is the front end for API. Then you have the inbound processing, back end, outbound processing, and the front end. So this front end is what all the consumer of this API is going to see. The inbound processing is something when I'm going to use this API. So for example, I'm going to send request for the currency conversion. Inbound processing gets that request, make any changes to the request if we specify here, and then send it to the backend. The backend, as you can see here, is our actual API. Then the response from the backend goes to the outbound processing, and you can make some changes to the output or the response for this API if you want to, and then send back to the front end or the consumer, right? So to define the global header or anything that you like to be applied to every request that coming in, you can update the inbound processing. And how you can do that, you click on these 3 dots, the edit icon there. And this is the place, these are the policies that you can define. So what we're going to do, we're going to define a policy called header, right? This one. So set HTTP header. Click on that. So now what you can do here, for any inbound processing or for any inbound request, you can define preset headers. So irrespective of who is sending that request, I will always have this into the request. So the key of this API will always be there presented, and I'm not asking that to the end user. Okay, so let me define that. So I just copy pasted this information to save time. So this is my API key, and this is the host, and this is the subscription key, right? And as you can see here, and I click on save. So now as you can see here, so these 3 header has been defined. So now I don't need to worry about the headers. The next I need to define is the response. So if I go, so what you can do now, you can go back to the method, edit the method. So you define the query parameters. Header we have defined on the inbound processing. request is not required. Response. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on add response. You can select any of these response code. So we are defining this for the success. Description, you can just say this is the response. Right? And then you need to add the representation of the response. That is how your response is going to look like. So your app or your Power Automate can understand that. So this is going to be the application JSON. Most of the API represent in this way. And if you look at here, you can see this is a JSON structure, right? And then you will define the definition. So click on the new definition, give a name for your response. And the next thing that you need, either you need a sample response of your API. So I have the sample response of my API. So as you can see here, this is how the response is going to look like, right? So either you need this or you need the actual payload, right? So I'm going to click on, before that, let me show you the response actually. So as you can see, right, so this is how the response is going to look like, and that's what I added here. And as you can see here, right? So click on create definition. And what this is going to do, this is going to create a response schema for this API. Click save. And now in the API, what you can also do, once you define your method, go to the test. And what we're going to do, we're going to select the currency, right? And then I'm going to send. And as you can see here, so it's 200, okay. And now if you see the result, and you can see the exchange rate from pound to USD. And that's what I was using, and we can use this also. So now you created this API, it's ready to go. The next, what you need to do, that you need to make sure that you understand. If you go to the settings of your API, there is something called subscription. And there is a checkbox here. If you keep this open or the on, what's going to happen, if anyone going to use this API, they have to provide the subscription key, and those key can be found here under subscription. If you don't want them to provide the subscription key, you can just uncheck this option and click save. And this will avoid unnecessary unauthorized error that people will get if they access. So the next, to export this to the Power Platform, what you need to do, you need to just click on those three dots. There is an option called export. And now as you can see here, there are many options, but there is one option called Power Apps and Power Automate. Click on that. What this is going to do, this is going to show you all the different Power Platform environment that you have. That is included the default Power Platform environment. That is not Dataverse for Teams. But what we are planning to do, we are planning to export this to Dataverse for Team, because only there it is going to be exported as a standard connector. So if you export this to the standard Power Automate or Power Apps environment, it will not be the standard. So we are going to do this for the teams. I'm selecting this one, this is the name, and click on export. And it is going to export this, and it's going to export, and in quick time it will export this API as in custom connector. And meanwhile it's exporting, let me go to the flow.microsoft.com. And if you look at the environment, and if you click on that, it will actually list down all those different environments, including the Dataverse for Teams environment. And this is the environment that we were working on. So I'm going to select that. So now you are in the Teams environment, but you are accessing that outside the Teams. So you can do that if that make more easy for you. So let me go here. Okay, so this has been published. Let me go back to my Power Automate flow. So under data, under custom connectors, you should be able to see that sample connector that we just published. And as you can see here, so this is our Scottish Summit API sample. It is published here and is available for us to use. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly create a flow. So I'm doing the instant flow. The next step, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the custom. And under this one, you should see your sample. This is here. Select that. And now you can see we have created one method called get. And this is what you are seeing here. So select that method. Now it's creating that connection, and you see here all three query string parameter that we have defined are showing up here, and whatever default value we set up is also displaying here. So I'm going to select currency exchange from US to USD from GBP. Now you can also change this because these are the custom parameters. So instead of GBP, I can provide something else. But before that, add another screen, and I'm going to show you compose. So another action, compose, and in this, now if you click on this, now you can see here, because we have defined the response properly, now you can see all that different response that I'm getting from this API listed here. So let's find the exchange rate. So what we are doing, we are going to get the exchange rate. Save it and run it. So now my flow is running and it is successfully completed, and if you look at the result, my result is here. So now I'm getting the currency exchange rate enabled by the APIM. Okay, so as you can see, this is how easy it is to get your API into the APIM and export it as a custom connector and make it available into the Power Automate. But not only Power Automate, if I go to the Teams again here, and if I go to the Power Apps, you will see the similar connector. So let me open the demo app that we have created previously. I'm going to add a new screen, just a blank screen, right? And then under data, I'm going to add that sample connector. So you can see here that connector is not only available in Power Automate, it is available in the Power Apps as well. Select that. So now I added here. Now if I go back to my screen, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to insert a label here and a button, right? So on click of this button, what we are going to do, we are going to call that API. So so as you can see here, it's listing all those different methods, and all those different information that we have provided is coming directly in the Power App as well. And then if you click on dot, now you can see here you are getting the exchange rate as well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set a variable on click of this button, that is exchange rate, and then I'm calling this API, passing all this parameter and finally getting the exchange rate. And then my label is going to be that variable, right? And this should be the exchange rate. And just to show you that the result is giving me all the information that we have defined in the response, right? So what we're going to use, the exchange rate. And let's preview this. And I click on this button. Now we are making the call to the API, and you should see the result. And as you can see here, so this is how easy it is to create those API in the APIM and export them as a custom connector. The next slide is a little bit more learning resources. So if you want to learn more about the Dataverse for Teams, you can access the Microsoft Dataverse for Teams documentation here. Some documentation around the tables in the Teams. Azure API management connectors and Power Platform. This is also a good article here. And you can also go to this YouTube channel where I have created a lot of videos around the APIM. And this is our last screen. So thank you very much for staying and listening to this session. Just to let you know, this entire session is recorded and will be available on the Scottish Summit YouTube channel. So later, if you want to come back and listen to this, feel free to come back and listen. Thank you very much. Enjoying the rest of the event. Thank you.